Hi everyone, it's Coach Fred here, and today we're on our lesson 2 on pronouns. So if you're watching this, you've already watched the intro to pronouns and nouns. So when we're working on pronoun agreement for the writing section, like pronoun questions, I use something called the vertical scan. So I want to know that I'm being tested on pronouns. So if I vertically scan the answers or the word given, I can tell based on if they're pronouns, if it's a pronoun question. So when we're dealing with a pronoun question, we want to make sure that we're looking for pronoun agreement, okay? So first, you want to look out for pronouns, and if you have a pronoun, then you need to find its antecedent. We'll review that in a second. But once you know it's a pronoun question, you need to make sure that you don't have a disagreement in number, a disagreement in person, or are dealing with unclear antecedents. And we're going to look at ways that you can spot pronoun errors on the SAT. All right, so let's get started. So a review. Pronouns always have to match their antecedents. Well, let's make sure we know what they are. A pronoun is the word that takes the place of a noun, and the antecedent is the noun the pronoun replaces. So here's an example. Mary, me, forgot her soccer ball this afternoon. Okay, her is the pronoun, the antecedent is Mary. That's the noun. The noun that the pronoun is replacing is Mary. Okay, so now that we know what that is, we need to really consider the number. Okay, agreement and number. So now that we know what they are, they have to match. So Mary almost forgot their soccer ball today. Okay, so Mary is singular, there is plural. They don't match. You can't use it. Mary almost forgot my soccer ball today. Okay, so this is third person versus first person with Mary and my. So you also have to think about it that way. All right, but let's review the most common pronouns and their correct uses. So I, me, my is first person singular, the person speaking. So in this case, my was not speaking, I was not speaking, so I couldn't use my. We, us, ours would be first person plural, the person speaking and others. You, your is second person, singular and plural. Example is the person or people being spoken to, you. He, him, his is third person masculine, a male person or animal who isn't present. She, her is third person feminine, i.e. a female person or animal who isn't present. It or its is third person neuter, inanimate objects only, okay? And then they, them, their is third person plural. So it's multiple people or things. Okay, so if we got to be really careful about disagreement and the number being spoken about, plural nouns require plural pronouns, singular nouns require singular pronouns. So we always want to make sure that we have an agreement in number. So look for the disagreement in number, okay? In a basic sentence, it's easy to find these types of error. It gets trickier when we add more words. Oops, when we add more words. All right, so here's an example. Question number 29. So I'm going to go to question number 29, and it says, like their terrestrial plant cousins, kelp removes carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, turning it into sugar fuel through photosynthesis and releases oxygen back into the air. So I scan the answers. I see pronouns, and I also see possession. I'm going to go with the pronouns first. So I need to find the antecedent. So the antecedent to a pronoun here, like their terrestrial plant cousins, kelp. So kelp is the noun. That's the antecedent. So kelp is singular. So that means there and they are out. Okay, so now I have a choice between two, which is always going to be your goal. You want to get two eliminated. Pick between two. So now I just need to see if it needs possession. In this case, it doesn't. So its would be out with the apostrophe. So C would be my answer. All right, so non-gendered singular pronouns can be tricky, so you have to beware. Please remind your friend to bring their speakers to the party tomorrow. You know, when you read this first, you might say it sounds right, but your friend is the noun. So it's singular, and we don't know what gender. So we could say the speakers, we could get rid of a pronoun, or we could say her or his speakers to the party tomorrow, so you have to be really, really careful. And remember, we've talked about this if you've been watching my videos. If you say, oh, it just doesn't sound right, you are going to mess up this test because that is what they want you to do, okay? All right, so it was wrong. You can't use a third person plural pronoun to refer to singular people of unclear gender. You'd want to use they, their, them. You can't use they, their, them, okay? All right. One tip to kind of pay attention to, if you look for references to doctors, lawyers, scientists, these usually indicate a pronoun agreement error question, so just a little tip. All right, review again of collective nouns. I want to make sure we understand that a collective noun denotes a group of individuals. For example, the class. The class does include multiple students, but there's still only one class. It's a singular noun and therefore takes a singular pronoun. So you really want to pay attention to these collective nouns, okay? All right, for their final assignment, the class had to build a dancing robot. Okay, so I see there, so that's the pronoun. I need to find the noun. I need to find the antecedent. So the antecedent is the class. Again, it's singular, one class. So for its final assignment, the class had to build a dancing robot. How we doing? All right, so then we really want to think about disagreement in person. First, again, find the antecedent and see if it agrees with the pronoun. Okay, does it agree with the pronoun? Pronouns must reflect the type of thing it's replacing. So the garden would be it, whereas a Blinken would be he. Another little note, if you start in first person, don't switch to third person. That would be bad, okay? All right, right after the bomb beeped, he exploded. Okay, well, I see a he, so I see a pronoun, so I got to find the antecedent, the bomb. The bomb could not be used as a he or she, a gender, so it exploded. All right, one little extra piece of information, you versed 1. You always want to be consistent on this test. If you've watched my videos on punctuation, like if you're using commas to set off non-restrictive clauses or appositives, use a comma and a comma, you wouldn't want to use a comma and a dash. You could use 2 dashes, so dash, dash, or comma, comma. The same thing is consistency with 1 and you and you. Okay, you verse 1. If one wants to succeed on the SAT, you must study effectively. You wouldn't want to say that. You'd want to say, one must study effectively. Or if you want to succeed on the SAT, you must study effectively. So beware of things like that. You might not see it, but it's something that could come up. All right, last thing for today that we're going to talk about is relative pronouns. Relative pronouns are words like who or whom, when, where, which, and that. So they're relative pronouns, and you actually have to use them in the proper place. So who or whom can only refer to a person, whereas when refers to a point in time, where, a place, and which and that, anything else. And they do use relative pronouns on this test. Here's a great example. I'm going to read actually the whole sentence. So we're looking at question number 39, but more like a fair than an actual cafe, the first repair cafe took place in Amsterdam, the Netherlands. It was the brainchild of former journalist Martijn Postma, wanting to take a practical stand in a throwaway culture. All right, so I do, in this case, need some type of relative pronoun. It was the brainchild of former journalist Martijn Postma. So she's my noun. I think it's a she. I'm not really sure. So I'm not going to use that. Okay? The question is, I don't want wanting because I want a relative pronoun. Do I want whom or who? And so this is a case where it's singular, so we would want to use who. But we also want past tense, not wants, we want wanted. So C would be our answer. Great use of the relative pronoun and that verb. Okay, I finally got to the chapter where the hero sneaks into the castle and rescues the dragon. Okay, all right, so let's go back to this again really quickly. Where is a place, when is a point in time. Think about this. I finally got to the chapter when the hero sneaks into the castle and rescues the dragon, because that place in the chapter is when, not where. All right, so the last thing I want to talk about is just the idea of unclear antecedents. These questions are designed to confuse you. So no matter what you do, find the noun that the pronoun is replacing. Okay, so remember, you always want to look for those abstract nouns that we've been talking about. Let's look. In order to get my application completed, I needed them to call me back. Them? Who's them? I need to get the agent to call me back. I want to be really specific. I don't want to use a pronoun if I don't have an antecedent to replace it. All right, sometimes you have to be careful with too many antecedents. When Nell and Katie got back from the movie, they took her dog for a walk. Well, it's Nell and Katie. That's my noun. That's my antecedent. So I have to be really careful. I can't use her because there's two of them. I could say the dog for a walk. I could say Nell's dog. I could say Katie's dog. I could say their dog. Be really careful. All right, so final tip. Anytime you see a pronoun underlined or in the answer, find the antecedent. The trickier ones involve not just pronoun agreement, but possibly subject-verb agreement as well. Hopefully that was a helpful video. Have a great day.